The Canada Revenue Agency and the Canada Revenue Agency Corporation, the real CRA and the fake CRA. More audit powers? Part 1. Their audit is not an audit, but a fraud. They are after your cash. I was surprised when I read the news that the CRA wants to expand its audit powers, issued non-compliance, and a forced interview without a safety guard, which means that you don't need to go to court for any decision they make. The intention to expand the audit power was tabled on April 16, 2024 by Minister François Philippe Champagne and to be discussed in 2025. Really? Since April 2007, we have two CRAs, a government or a public office CRA and a private office CRA. Both have the same name, which is illegal. By law, it is illegal. But the private one has a name, the Canada Revenue Agency Corporation. In practice, they never use the corporation, but only and always the Canada Revenue Agency. This amendment to the Excise Tax Act and the Underused Housing Tax Act, meant for the GST or HST, is nothing but an intention to take your cash in an open space. Yes, you heard it right. What I said, it is about taking your cash in an open space. It is about 6 times the amount you have in your bank account, or 8 times the cash you have in your bank account. It is about robbing you because they know that you are clueless and ignorant. They work with the bank managers to find out how much money you have in your bank account and your financial investment and work out their scheme to access your cash. Do you remember that after the creation of the CRA Corporation, the CRA requested all banks to give the information of all their clients, and that includes their cash in the bank. When you have crypto, they want it too. How in the world any person can mine his own money, and wants you to buy it, and if you cash it at the bank, it becomes thousands. So from hundreds, it becomes thousands, and thousands becomes millions. It is similar to robbing the banks with cryptocurrency or Trump dollars. These two monies are illegal monies. This means that no one understands the Constitution. The politicians do not understand the Constitution, its meaning, and how to apply the meaning of its contents in their daily task. No one understands how a country comes to have its currency. The Constitution describes that a country has its currency, like Canada has its dollar. But before it was adopted as a mean of exchange for goods and services that is nationally and internationally accepted, and before it was accepted, it had to go through several tests, such as reliability, adaptability, how it is spent, economic and market tests, and the most important thing is the legal test. Then it should be constitutionalized. If cryptocurrency and Trump dollars are legal monies, any person can make his own money too. Put it in the market and use it to buy goods and services. Of course, you can only spend your money with those who have your money. Everyone can mine his own money and use it in the market. What happened with the illegal money? Then came the dollar backed by gold. Isn't this what happened during the antediluvian era? You use the gold and silver as your mean of exchange for goods and services, or you use other stone or metal as a mean of exchange for the goods and services, because there has not been a legal money adopted by the country and stated in the Constitution. It is interesting. Once Elon Musk talked about crypto, all political leaders began promoting crypto and want you to invest in it while it has not been tested and legalized. In other words, these political leaders are clueless about money and the state process. Even Justin Trudeau, who once related crypto investment with poor leadership, endorses you to invest in crypto for the sake of Elon Musk. The new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, the opposition leaders Pierre Poilievre, and the new Democratic leader Jamet Singh, all through their advertising beg you to invest in this financial scheme. Both Justin and Pierre did claim that they make money on crypto. Although they seem to be proud of what they did with the crypto, it shows that they are just clueless. No money can be accepted without going through the tests. I have mentioned economic, political, and market tests that involves respectability, durability, reliability, uh, sustainability, spendability, and the most important factor is the legal test. Does it have the merit to be adopted as the country's currency? How many currencies should a country have? The money has to be institutionalized. You cannot just create any money, put it in the market, and sell it without these tests. The banks and other financial institutions do not have crypto or Trump dollars, so if you cash them, you rob the bank. You exchange money that does not exist for the real money. They should not be treated as money but can only be adopted as shares, like corporate shares. They cannot be treated as the real money. Many people want to become public leaders through the political parties. It is an easy process. They do not want to or are reluctant to go through the developmental process and transformational process. They just like to be on the commanding seat as soon as they enter the government and issue a command, but they do not have the foundation. Very few of them know very little about the government. As a result, they go in every direction, especially when there's money. Once they were elected, not only they rendered themselves as slaves to foreign representatives in exchange for the material or the cash, but also to the globalists. This class of people keep lobbying them with ideas in exchange for your tax dollars. They also have the elected officials who keep manipulating you to elect them and promise to serve you but betray you soon after winning the election, to remove those with knowledge and knowledge specialization. Having those with knowledge and knowledge specialization means they cannot control the government. These elected and appointed leaders do not have job descriptions. They go to the public office only to read one or two paragraph briefing notes prepared by their political staff and sign on the dotted line. They never read your communication unless you are a VIP, the elites, the globalists, or foreign representatives. They never read anything from you, but their staff are the one who reads your communication and sends you to the customer service or the client care. It seems that they do not care, but it is because they do not have the mental and technical capacity to do what they are required to do. They are not trained but simply work to argue and perform as a leader. Neither the politicians nor their staffs are trained in the government and its administration or its administrative and management systems. They just use the systems they only know, which are the system of the private sector, and contribute to the cost of a dysfunctional government. The leaders alone are dysfunctional. If you spend your hours and days just to argue and counter-argue with your fellow politicians, by the end of the day, your mental and emotional accounts are empty. There is nothing good left for you to offer help to the citizens. This is one of the reasons why most politicians do not stay long in politics. Even though they were re-elected, they quit as soon as they're able to collect a full pension after 5 years of service. But do you know, is it fair? Public servants can only collect a full pension after 30 years of service. Many politicians do enter the public office through the political parties just to measure their ability to argue while becoming wealthy and popular, as well as enjoying the life of economic freedom at taxpayers' expense. Every time the politicians leave public office, they cause the government office to be very unstable and volatile. It is easy to destroy the government or a country during political transition, especially after the general election, because the government office is almost empty. After the government reform or once the government become a corporation, it is easy to attack a country as soon as after the election, because public servants have been restricted and prevented from serving you or managing the state administration. It is managed by the political staff who reply to you just as a personal favor and send you to the customer service. Yeah, they never do the work, but they send you to the customer service. You are served by the customer service or the client care who don't care about you and keep manipulating and deceiving you or lying to you by using political phraseology just to confuse you and make you surrender. The customer service are people who work for many different companies, organizations, and even the governments. They are blurred with your problems. It is worse if the customer service is from foreign countries and they have the freedom to work from anywhere around the world. I remember several times I called the CRA customer service. After waiting for almost 1 hour on the phone, the agent came on the phone. The funny thing was the agent was on the beach in Jamaica. Another agent was traveling in some other countries. Has the government been so dumb that it adopts this kind of management? These agents will never answer you because they also work using cellular telephone or BlackBerry. They cannot help you but only argue. What can you read on a BlackBerry or a cellular telephone? This arrangement is unacceptable for a government that claims it is professional and high quality government. Don't you know that sending you to the customer service whose agents scattered around the world is the same as removing your sovereignty as a citizen of Canada? Why do they send you to the customer service or the client care? Because once they turn the government into a corporation, they turn you into customers. Turning the government into a corporation and citizens into customers are very wrong and unacceptable. There are tremendous differences between the government and a corporation and also between citizens and customers. They cannot be generalized, cannot be equalized, cannot be compared. The deterioration of the government condition today is the result of the reform proposed by external observers, not those who were trained in the government, management, and administrative systems. Take a look at the politicians. They come from the customers and they act like customers, never as citizens. Therefore, they quickly become treason as long as they make money. They don't care whatever happens to the public institution and you, people they constantly manipulating to elect them and begging for your money. They believe in the power of money and popularity, not the power of the people or the power of knowledge. They mock knowledge. They don't even act as leaders who can take charge, but always as someone who receives command from the outsiders. Once the government becomes a corporation, politicians act more like salespeople who are ready to sell the country's resources, including public policy. Foreign policy it is, while collecting their consulting fee. Prime Minister Stephen Harper traveled around the world as a king or a salesperson who was selling your nation's resources. Each time he traveled, he carried with him his own entourage, limousine, security, and advanced political staff who would arrange his agenda, and political provocators. He never used the service from the embassy. He even threatened the ambassadors that they should not talk or discuss about him and his agenda. The media is not allowed to write about things he did while in foreign countries. If foreign country's government refused his sales, the political provocators would work with the local non-governmental organization to initiate a demonstration against the country's governments. They created political, social, and economic crises. Therefore, most foreign governments tend to adopt or approve Harper sales for fear of crisis. Take a look at the temporary foreign workers. They buy this policy of foreign countries without digesting the purpose behind these policies. The United Nations call this policy as economic equalization. They send the foreigners to your country to take over the jobs from Canadians. The Canadians are sent to the unemployment door and collect social assistance. Interestingly, the policy of temporary foreign workers are managed by people who call themselves Employment and Social Development Canada. So they also work as contractors at Service Canada. So they propose to the government to allow them to process passport. Ever since, they also process the visa for these temporary foreign workers. These corrupt officials can sell passport and visa to foreigners to enrich themselves, but at your expense. Once these foreign workers are accepted in the country, they take over the jobs that Canadians used to do, and the Canadians have to move somewhere else to find employment or just to settle with social assistance or employment insurance until they run out of it. As a corporation and politicians are sales force, they can even sell the government as Harper did. He sold Canada to the United States for free through the creation of North America Community. Have you ever wondered why? Because if Canada becomes the 51st state, Harper would be able to compete for the leadership position. It is why Donald Trump wants to make Canada as the 51st state. The politicians claim they are legislators, but never does the task the legislators do, but argue. Though as politicians, they never do the task politicians do either because they do not have job descriptions, but argue and counter-argue, accuse and counter-accuse, then they vote. Sometimes they argue and counter-argue bitterly or square at each other like a bunch of children in the schoolyard, and the speaker has to cry out, "Order, order, order." These politicians read only one or two paragraph briefing notes prepared by their political staff. Therefore, their knowledge is limited and they are dependent, knowledge dependent. They do things according to what they are being fed. Remember when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans? President George Bush did not know what to do. His first expression was, "We raised money for them." Really? Is this what you can do, raise money? Because politicians believe that their main task is to raise money for the party and to sign on the dotted line. Signing on the dotted line explains why politicians are poor decision makers. They make decisions without reading or without analyzing the letters that presented before them. As a result, they can easily be manipulated and deceived as well. Take a look at Chrystia Freeland, Trudeau's former deputy minister and minister of finance. She wanted $2 billion to purchase shares in Canada Growth Fund to promote green technology, a company that does not exist. It is a phantom company. They are not supported by people with knowledge and knowledge specialization. Those or public servants, they are not supported by public servants either, but only the political staff who embrace practicality or common sense. Chrystia Freeland never realized that she was being used by this phantom company to fraud the government, to fraud you. She does not even know that the government is being fraud. When it comes to natural disaster, government has contingency funds. Where are all the contingency funds in the government book? They have disappeared once the government book was done by private sector accountants. They are transferred to assets and, well, before they transfer to liability first and then to asset, and is used or are used to for the political cronies projects, which you don't know what they are. They are used to purchase company shares, other private investments. They are used to enrich the cronies, and of course, politicians reap the benefits as well. They are part of the pipeline of the projects promoted by politicians. Things that political leaders decide and do are actually dictated by agents of influence. They are known as lobbyists and foreign representatives. All are done at your expense. Temporary foreign workers, for example, the political leaders bought into this idea. The foreign governments sell them to our country, to Canada, under economic equalization policy or transferring wealth to their countries. These workers were sponsored by their governments who will then receive the remittance from these workers. They come to Canada, got the job under subsidy from the government, then they go to school, and when they complete their study, they take over you. They take over a job while keep sending remittance to their own country. In other words, not only they send money to their own country because their government does not know how to improve their economic with the resources they have rejected knowledge as well. So they have lost their mental and technical capacity, and therefore they depend on the provision from their temporary foreign workers. How sad. Yes, it is sad. Their government sell their people here to make money from Canadians at the expense of the Canadians and impoverishing the Canadians because they have lost the opportunity to improve their economic condition. The CRA Corporation hireling are mostly foreigners, and they want you to pay them with remittance voucher. I'm wondering whether this is part of the politics of economic equalization. Who knows? Or it is simply a robbery. You need further study in this matter. Study on this matter. Canadian government buys this temporary foreign worker policy because it does not have mental and technical capacity personnel. Since the government reform, it has slowly rejected its mental and technical capacity personnel. It rejects knowledge and people will be destroyed. These elected officials are being used to destroy you because of money and because their lack of mental and technical capacity themselves. While their daily job is arguing, politicians believe that their main task is raising money. Therefore, all they do is raising money for themselves or their party, and some people use this platform to raise money for them as well. Back to cryptocurrency or bitcoins. Politicians endorse it and encourage you to buy cryptocurrency or bitcoins. But when you cash your crypto or bitcoins, it is the same as you're robbing the bank. Yes, you rob the bank without the bank realize it. Imagine you cash in 1 million from 100 bitcoins. The bank cannot use your bitcoins anywhere or even sell it. Since the government reform, politicians never know that phantom entities have been bidding on government projects, lobbying them, etc. All they do is coming to the government with ideas, and if they give gifting, they will receive your tax dollars. Gifting is actually the same as bribery. They want to make it polite, police the expression of bribery with gifting. This is common in the United States. Instead of saying bribery, they call it gifting. So the government receive any gifting, any bribery. How sad. Phantom entities and entities were established using the names of established entities for the purpose of defrauding you. In fact, in the early 80s, prior to the government reform, myriads of duplicate companies emerged and they used the names of the established entities to defraud you. The government then issued a law to prohibit anyone from establishing an entity with a name the same as the existing entities. It is punishable by law. Fraud began to spread as the newly established company began to fraud the customers of the established company. Then those who issued this law were rejected by the political leaders. They were radically ousted by the Mulroney following what Pierre Trudeau did. Chrétien did the same, and Harper finished them all. Those with mental and technical capacity employees from the government were finished. They were rejected. Do you know about phantom entities? They are entities that exist in name only on online or on paper, but not physically. People create phantom entities with the sole purpose is to fraud you. Why you deal with a company that doesn't exist? Phantom entities should be prohibited, but many political leaders and their staff have been involved in the creation of phantom entities, especially after the creation of the CRA Corporation in Service Canada. The corrupt government officials who used to work at the Department of Human Resources and Social Development Canada, when they were kicked off, were kicked off from this Department of HRSDC, Human Resources and Social Development Canada, were kicked out in 2015 when Justin Trudeau rebranded the department. They started working as contractors at Service Canada, so they created a phantom entity called Employment and Social Development Canada to chase after those under social assistance and especially the innocent students whose identities they use to take student loan fraudulently. They even collaborate with those at the CRA Corporation to steal the students' tax refunds and benefits beginning tax years 2012. All just disappeared and the students do not know anything about them. Another entity that is illegal in its creation is an entity that duplicates the name of an existing entity. This creation has the same purpose, to fraud you. After reforming the government as a corporation or as a corporate government, now we have corporate Canada, politicians never use public servants, people who take an oath to serve you. They were trained first before serving you because they have to understand that they are to serve you. That's why they were called public servants. These politicians keep public servants away from you, especially after Harper took over the state leadership. All of you have been sent to the customer service, which is the government way of shedding the responsibility. These political leaders only use their political staff to do everything for them. They want to become public leaders, enter the government through the political parties, but do not want to be responsible for anything. They want to be on the commanding seat. They want to become wealthy quickly while enjoying the privilege of letting you paying for their expenses and become popular. All politicians want to be appointed to ministerial positions as it gives them feeling of being the main actor to perform in the political stage. Other positions they want to hold are the whip and parliamentary secretary. Unfortunately, once they were appointed to these positions, they use their positions and authorities to enrich themselves, serve foreign representatives, and all are at your expense. They feast and basking on in wealth with your tax dollars without guilt and remorse. Interestingly, politicians claim they are experts on every issue and their expertise is gained from criticizing their fellow politicians. This statement is a joke. They never read anything that comes to them but only one or two paragraph briefing notes prepared by their staff. They know very little and are knowledge dependent. Very few of them know very little about the government. I mentioned it earlier. They don't even know how government makes money but taxes, and they tax you to death while liberating those considered as millionaires and billionaires. They give away all government income to their business and political cronies and depend on you in terms of taxation. In terms of benefits, they steal back from you. For example, the provincial government gives you benefits such as the Ontario Trillium benefit. The federal government takes it back, which was started in 2007 after the creation of the CRA Corporation. And after Harper negotiated with the provincial government to let the CRA, he meant the CRA Corporation, manages the provincial benefits. Since then, millions of elderly people, pensioners, small business operators, widows and widowers, and the poor never receive the provincial benefits anymore, such as I mentioned, Ontario Trillium benefits, housing credits for seniors, or OSTC, and other provincial benefits. They disappeared in the thin air. Even my family never received these Ontario Trillium benefits anymore since 2012 and other provincial and federal benefits. They just disappeared without explanation.